Picture this moment. You're standing at a crossroads, not the kind you see on a map, the kind that lives inside your mind every single day. One path looks familiar, safe, the same steps everyone else is taking. The other path, it's unclear, foggy, but somewhere deep inside, you feel it might lead somewhere different. Here's the question that changes everything. Why do some people see possibilities where others see only problems? Why do some minds cut through chaos while others drown in it? The answer isn't intelligence, it isn't luck, it isn't even hard work. It's something far more powerful, and tonight we're going to discover what it is. Strategic thinking is the practice of seeing beyond the immediate moment to understand patterns, consequences, and possibilities that others miss. It's not about being smarter, it's about training your mind to pause, question, and connect dots in ways that transform ordinary decisions into meaningful direction. Anyone can develop this skill through conscious practice, regardless of background or education. Part 1. The Invisible Cage. There was a man named David, not from some big city with endless opportunities, just a regular guy from a small town where everyone knew everyone and life followed a predictable rhythm. David worked at a local manufacturing plant. Every morning, same time. Every task, same way. Every week, same paycheck. He wasn't unhappy, but he wasn't truly alive either. His coworkers would often joke about him. "David's our machine," they'd say. "Give him instructions and he'll execute perfectly, no questions asked." David would smile at these comments, but inside, something always felt off. He watched other people around him, people who seemed to navigate life differently. They'd spot opportunities he never saw. They'd solve problems that left him confused. They'd make connections that felt almost magical. The assumption. One rainy evening, David sat in his car in the parking lot. Another day finished, another set of tasks completed, another chance at something more missed. He stared at the raindrops racing down his windshield and asked himself a question he'd never dared ask before. What if I'm not stuck because of who I am, but because of how I think? That single question changed everything. Life application. Most people live inside invisible cages they've built with their own assumptions. The first step toward strategic thinking isn't learning new techniques, it's recognizing that your current way of thinking might be limiting you. Ask yourself today, what am I assuming is impossible that might actually be possible if I thought about it differently? You are not trapped by your circumstances. You are only trapped by the stories you tell yourself about your circumstances. Have you ever felt like opportunities were reserved for other people? Share your thoughts in the comments. Part 2. The question that unlocks everything. The next morning, David walked into work differently. He didn't change what he did, he changed what he asked. His supervisor assigned him a routine task, reorganizing inventory in the warehouse. Same task he'd done 100 times before. But this time, he paused. Instead of immediately executing, he asked himself 3 questions. Why is this task important? What happens if it's done well versus done poorly? And is there a better way to approach this? These questions felt strange at first, almost uncomfortable, like exercising a muscle he'd never used before. He looked at the inventory system. For years, items were organized alphabetically, simple, logical, the way it had always been done. But David noticed something.
The items they used most frequently were scattered throughout the warehouse. Workers wasted time walking back and forth, searching, gathering. He approached his supervisor nervously. What if we organized by usage frequency instead of alphabetically? Most used items in front, least used in back. It might save time. His supervisor stared at him for a moment, then nodded slowly. Try it. The realization. 2 weeks later, the warehouse operated 30% more efficiently. Workers finished tasks faster, errors decreased, energy improved. David hadn't invented anything revolutionary. He'd simply asked questions that changed his perspective.
And in that shift of perspective, he discovered something profound. Strategic thinking isn't about having all the answers, it's about asking better questions. Life application. Transform your daily routine by becoming question-obsessed. Before you execute any task today, pause for 10 seconds and ask, why does this matter? What's the real goal here? Is there a smarter approach? This tiny pause is where strategic thinking begins. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions. Change your questions, change your reality. When was the last time you questioned the way things have always been done? Tell us in the comments. Part 3. Patterns in the noise. David's small success sparked something inside him. He began noticing things he'd never noticed before. At lunch, he'd watch how different people approached problems. Some would panic immediately. Others would step back, observe, then act deliberately. He noticed patterns everywhere. The co-workers who constantly complained rarely changed anything. The ones who asked curious questions usually found solutions. The projects that failed often started with vague goals. The ones that succeeded began with crystal clear purpose. One afternoon, the plant manager announced a major problem. Production delays were causing customer complaints. Deadlines were being missed. Tension was rising. Everyone immediately jumped into reaction mode. We need to work longer hours. We need more people. We need better equipment. David sat quietly in the corner, thinking. He didn't have more information than anyone else, but he was asking different questions. Not how do we work harder, but why is this happening in the first place? He spent his lunch breaks for a week simply observing, not fixing, just watching. The realization. He noticed that raw materials arrived in unpredictable batches, sometimes too much, sometimes too little. The inconsistency created a ripple effect that disrupted the entire production schedule. The problem wasn't effort, it wasn't equipment, it wasn't people. It was the supply chain rhythm. David mapped it out on paper, showed the pattern to his manager. Within a month, they'd renegotiated with suppliers for more consistent delivery schedules. Production delays dropped by 60%. The manager pulled David aside. "How did you see that when no one else did?" David smiled. "I stopped looking for answers and started looking for patterns." Strategic thinkers are pattern recognizers. Start training your mind to spot patterns by journaling for 5 minutes each evening. Write down what repeated today, what keeps showing up in my life, what's the common thread. Patterns reveal truth that individual moments hide. The answers you seek are already around you. You just need to learn to see what everyone else is looking at, but not observing. What pattern in your life keeps repeating that you've been ignoring? Share below. Part 4. The power of second-order thinking. David's reputation began to shift. People started calling him the guy who thinks ahead. But David knew something they didn't. He wasn't thinking ahead because he was psychic. He was thinking ahead because he'd learned to ask, and then what? Most people stop at first-order consequences. They see the immediate result and stop there. Strategic thinkers see second-order, third-order, even fourth-order consequences. One day, the company announced exciting news. They were implementing a new software system to increase efficiency. Everyone celebrated. New technology, modernization, progress. David felt uneasy. He asked himself, this software increases efficiency. Great, and then what? He started mapping consequences. First order, faster production. Second order, same workforce producing more, means some jobs might become redundant. Third order, people will resist the system if they feel threatened by it. Fourth order, resistance will slow adoption, defeating the whole purpose. David requested a private meeting with management. The software is brilliant, but we need to address the fear first. What if we communicated that this system will help people work smarter, not eliminate jobs? What if we involved workers in the implementation so they feel ownership instead of threat? The realization. Management listened. They adjusted their approach. When the software launched, workers were trained as system ambassadors. They felt valued, not replaced. Adoption was smooth, morale stayed high, productivity soared. All because David asked, and then what? Before making any significant decision, play it forward. Ask yourself, if I do this, what happens? And then what? And then what? Map out at least 3 levels of consequences. This mental exercise separates reactive people from strategic ones. Every action creates ripples. Strategic thinkers learn to see the ripples before they make the splash. Have you ever made a decision that seemed good initially but created problems later? What would "and then what" thinking have revealed? Comment below. Part 5. The Art of Subtraction. David continued evolving, but his next lesson came from an unexpected place: exhaustion. He'd become so good at seeing opportunities that he started saying yes to everything. New project? Yes. Committee invitation? Yes. Extra responsibility? Yes. His calendar exploded. His energy crashed. His clarity evaporated. One evening, completely drained, he sat with his old friend Marcus over coffee. Marcus was a carpenter, someone who'd built a successful small business from nothing. David confessed, "I don't understand. I'm thinking strategically. I'm seeing opportunities, but I'm drowning. What am I missing?" Marcus smiled and pulled out a piece of wood. He handed David a knife. "Carve something," Marcus said. David, confused, started carving. He added details, more edges, more complexity. Marcus stopped him. "That's your problem. Strategic thinking isn't just about what to add, it's about what to remove." He took the wood and made one clean, deliberate cut. The piece transformed. Every master knows that power comes from subtraction, not addition. The realization. David realized he'd been thinking strategically about opportunities, but not about focus. Strategy isn't just choosing what to do, it's choosing what not to do. He went home and made a list. Everything on his plate, everything demanding his attention.
Then he asked a brutal question. If I could only do 3 things, which 3 would create the most meaningful impact? He identified 3. Everything else? He started saying no. His calendar cleared, his energy returned, his impact multiplied. Strategic thinking requires courageous subtraction. Take inventory of your commitments today. Ask, which of these truly moves me toward what matters most? Then have the courage to release everything else. Remember, you cannot do everything strategically. You can only do a few things strategically. Saying yes to everything means saying no to nothing that truly matters. Your power lies in your focus. What do you need to subtract from your life to think more strategically? Share your answer. Part 6. The Long Game. Years passed. David was no longer the guy who just followed instructions. He'd become the person people consulted before making important decisions. But his most profound lesson came when his teenage daughter, Emma, asked for advice. She'd been offered 2 paths. One led to immediate money, but no growth. The other required short-term sacrifice, but offered long-term potential. "What should I choose, Dad?" she asked. David smiled. He remembered being that person, always chasing the immediate, never seeing the long arc. "Let me tell you something I learned the hard way," he said. "Most people think in days and weeks. Strategic thinkers think in years and decades." He drew 2 lines on paper. One shot up quickly, then plateaued. The other started slow, but curved exponentially upward over time. "This," he pointed to the first line, "is what feels good now. This," pointing to the second, "is what builds something real." The realization. Emma chose the long game. It was hard at first. Her friends were earning money immediately. She was struggling, learning, investing in herself. 3 years later, she'd developed skills and a network that put her miles ahead. David watched her succeed and realized something profound about his own journey. Strategic thinking isn't just a tool for business, it's a lens for life. Every decision, career, relationships, health, money, benefits from asking, what does this look like in 5 years, in 10, in 20? Create a future self practice. Once a week, write a letter from your future self 10 years from now. What would that person thank you for doing today? What would they wish you'd started sooner? This simple exercise trains your mind to think strategically about time. Time is your most strategic asset. Those who think in decades win. Those who think in days survive. If your future self could send you one piece of advice today, what do you think it would be? Tell us in the comments. David thought he'd figured it out. Strategic thinking, patterns, questions, focus, long-term vision. Then life threw him something he didn't see coming. The manufacturing plant announced closure. After 25 years, they were shutting down, moving operations overseas. Everyone panicked. David felt it too, that familiar fear, that sense of losing control. But then something different happened. Instead of spiraling, he paused, asked himself, what is this moment teaching me? The realization. He realized that all his strategic thinking had been in environments where he had some control, some predictability.
But real life isn't always predictable. Markets shift, companies close, relationships end, health changes. The deepest level of strategic thinking, he discovered, wasn't about controlling the future. It was about staying clear-minded when the future becomes uncertain. He started asking different questions. Not, how do I prevent this, but how do I respond to this? Not, why is this happening to me, but what opportunity might be hiding in this disruption? Not, what's my perfect plan, but what's my next intelligent step? He didn't have all the answers, but he had a process for finding them. Within 6 months, David had used his severance to start a consulting business, helping small manufacturers improve efficiency. His uncertainty became his opportunity. Life application. Strategic thinking in certainty is planning. Strategic thinking in uncertainty is adaptation. Practice uncertainty tolerance. When faced with an unclear situation, resist the urge to force immediate clarity. Instead, ask, what can I learn here? What small experiment can I run? What's my next step, even if I can't see the whole path? The most strategic minds don't fear uncertainty, they dance with it. They understand that clarity comes from action, not from waiting. What uncertain situation are you facing right now? How might it be an invitation rather than a threat? Comment below. The FAQ section. FAQ 1. Can anyone really learn strategic thinking, or is it a natural talent? Strategic thinking is absolutely a learnable skill, not an innate talent reserved for a select few. Research shows that our brains are remarkably plastic. They can form new neural pathways throughout our lives. When you practice asking strategic questions, recognizing patterns, and thinking through consequences, you're literally rewiring your brain. The key is consistency. Start with small daily practices. Pause before reacting, ask why before how, and reflect on decisions afterward. Within weeks, you'll notice your thinking becoming clearer and more strategic. It's like going to the gym. The muscle grows with regular exercise regardless of where you started. FAQ 2. How long does it take to develop strategic thinking skills? The timeline varies by individual, but most people notice meaningful shifts within 30 to 90 days of conscious practice. In the first month, you'll develop awareness, catching yourself in reactive patterns and starting to ask better questions. By month 2, these questions become more automatic and you'll spot patterns you previously missed. By month 3, strategic thinking starts feeling natural rather than forced. However, mastery is a lifetime journey. Even seasoned strategists continue evolving their thinking. The encouraging truth is that you don't need to be a master to benefit. Even small improvements in strategic thinking create significant life changes. Start today, stay consistent, and trust the process. FAQ 4. How do I balance strategic thinking with taking action? This is one of the most important questions because strategic thinking without action becomes paralysis by analysis, while action without strategy becomes aimless busyness. The balance lies in what's called deliberate iteration. Think strategically about direction, then act quickly with small experiments. Don't wait for perfect clarity before moving. Instead, ask, what's the smallest action I can take to gain more information?
Strategic thinkers don't plan everything. They plan enough to take intelligent first steps, then adjust based on what they learn. Think of it like driving at night. You don't need to see the entire road, just far enough ahead to keep moving safely. Strategy sets direction, action creates feedback, adjustment creates progress. Conclusion. Let's come back to where we started. That crossroads, that moment of choice between the familiar path and the uncertain one. David's journey wasn't about becoming smarter, it was about becoming more aware. Aware that questions matter more than immediate answers. Aware that patterns reveal what single moments hide. Aware that consequences ripple beyond what we initially see.